Welcome, everyone. We're doing another episode of Indie Reads Aloud. This is our fifth season, and I'm so grateful to everyone who has stuck with me over the years. And of course, my gratitude goes out to all of the indie authors who have read for us. I am Diana Catherine Penn, and today our guest on the program is Russell Luyt, and he comes all the way from Paris, France, which just excites the pockets off of me. I can't even, I'm 6 years old instantly. I think it's absolutely wonderful that we have technology today that can connect us across the ocean. Welcome, Russell.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. It's great to be here, and I agree. It's wonderful, isn't it? You can talk across the entire Atlantic.
It's wacky. I've been doing this now 5 years and I still can't figure out how this works.
Yeah.
For me, there are still little mice like running on treadmills. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out. So your book is The Midnight Factory, which is a adult dystopian novel, and we should make sure that our listeners understand that there are some listener advisories for this program, mature themes and mature language. So if you have little ears listening in, you might want to just preview the episode before you let them listen to it, just to be on the safe side. So, Russell, we talked in the green room a little bit about your background. You come from a more academic approach to writing, and now you're doing fiction. What are you finding is the biggest difference between the two? What's that biggest line in the sand that you see that you had to kind of jump over to do now fiction writing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a surprising answer in the sense that it's not actually the writing. As an academic, you are trained to write. What I found the most difficult was that it's you're starting a business, especially as an indie author.
Ah, I'm so glad you touched on that.
Yeah, and I mean you're really starting a small business from scratch. And
Hmm.
what's surprising, I suppose, for someone, this is my debut novel, is that you begin writing, you think, well, this is the job. And it's a super job, right?
Right.
It draws you in. It's like reading a good book that you can't put down yourself. But that's just a tiny, tiny part of the process. And I think what's been quite eye-opener for me is that it's not just about trying to write great stories, which is the craft. It's also the editorial work, the publishing process, and the marketing, the sales. And then, of course, trying to balance writing in between all that. And that's been a big surprise, but also really enjoyable. And I have an entrepreneurial spirit, which I think a lot of indie authors have,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
and
you
that's
kind
fun,
of
isn't
have
it?
to. It's kind of like a job requirement. You have to
Absolutely,
really be
yeah,
able to light your own Bunsen burner, right?
you do, and you actually have to enjoy learning new things
Mm,
and being in command of your own show, really.
yeah.
And if you are, I'd really recommend it. But it was a surprise to me.
Yeah, it is a completely different approach from academia writing where you have a university or a corporation, an entity behind you and helping you
That's
get things
right.
published. And
Yeah.
this is, you're right, it's completely different waters.
But it comes with all the freedom from
Mm,
being self-employed, which you don't
yes,
get in any job, do you?
right.
Employment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I that's one of the reasons I chose to go indie myself is because
Yeah,
of that freedom
yeah,
and that level of control I have over my own work.
I know. Yeah, and yeah, creative control as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the Midnight Factory, this is an adult dystopian. You mention in the synopsis that people who are drawn to Margaret Atwood's work or Suzanne Collins' work might enjoy this as well. Can you give us a little bit of, I don't want to read the synopsis, I'd rather hear about the book from you. So can
Sure.
you give me a little bit of an overall story arc that we can start with?
We often, as authors, you'll know, Diana, we use well-known texts to
Mm,
orient readers, but perhaps not always the best. And I think in using things like The Handmaid's Tale and Susan Collins' The Hunger Game, it's trying to really tell the reader that this is a mixture. It's a crossover text between more sort of serious literary fiction, dystopian fiction, but also a thriller that's more fast-paced. And I think that's why those two key texts speak to it. There are many
Hmm.
others that would
Yeah.
resonate it. So it is a dystopian thriller. It's set in a rain-soaked near-future United Kingdom, where a drug called Shimmer promises escape, but actually ultimately functions as a subtle form of state control. And we follow the life of Anouk, who's our heroine, our protagonist, who's a young woman whose best friend is taken by the authorities to the factory. And the story unfolds. It's a story of self-discovery, amongst other things, as she attempts to save him, and she uncovers the truth about Shimmer, the people who profit from it, and the way that it ultimately supports the oppressive system that she finds herself in.
I am incredibly intrigued by this story, and I'm really excited to hear you read a little bit of it. So, when you are ready, Luyt,
Right.
please take the microphone and read aloud from The Midnight Factory.
Thanks, Diana. So I've taken chapter 5 to try and avoid some spoilers. It's a slower burn chapter, but I hope it's atmospheric and it'll give readers a sense of where we're going. So I'll start. The uncommon touch of warmth on her face coaxed her to prise her eyes open. Soft, late afternoon sunlight glinted as the curtains stirred. Anouk had slept deeply, waking once to sprit without noticing the surrounding room. She moved from her side onto her back and dared open her eyes further. They were dry. The sound of children playing outside and a nearby dove cooing felt otherworldly. She stared at the glow-in-the-dark stickers on her ceiling and remembered Jimmy. Where was he? As if prompted, the sun hid behind gathering clouds, and the dove flapped away. An adult called for the children, and their laughter ceased. Anouk sank into her bedding and mechanically reached for the bottle of Shimmer on her bedside table. A gentle rapping on the door interrupted, and she left her arm hanging over the bed. She lifted her head an inch from her pillow and croaked, "Yes?" "It's me, darling, Mummy." Anouk imagined her mother, hands pressed palm down on the door, and an ear placed between them. Her voice was revolting. Her mother spoke in a syrupy and soft tone, regardless of what, when, and to whom she was speaking. It was a learned voice, one that implored, "I'm so small and helpless. Please don't hurt me." Anouk placed her arm back alongside her body and lowered her head again. "What do you want, Janice?" "Oh, thank goodness you there, darling. I was starting to worry." She had never felt fondly towards Janice. Perhaps when she was very young, when her dad and sister were still around. Maybe. "I'm fine, Mother. There's no need to get your knickers in a knot." There was a brief hiatus. Anouk was lifting her arm again when another gentle rap on the door stopped her. "Yes?" "Mummy has made you breakfast. It's rather late breakfast, but it's a special treat. I managed to get bacon." Bloody hell, bacon. She couldn't recall the last time she'd had bacon, and the thought made her stomach rumble. You had to hand it to the manipulative cow. She knew how to get what she wanted. Anouk rolled to her side and sat up, light-headed. She steadied herself before getting to her feet, stepping over the jacket she had deposited on the floor that morning. It took her 2 attempts to slide the door latch from its catch. When she opened the door, her mother retreated, as if she had always been a step further away. Her mother was shorter than her. She stood facing the door, hands clasped in front of her, legs neatly together. Although Janice had been born decades later, she resembled a 1950s housewife, someone you might find smiling inanely from an old home product advertisement. She cut her once blonde hair into a simple bob, its corners at her chin curled upward. The baby blue pinafore she wore over a pink poodle skirt dress had a floating cloud print. She had painstakingly applied her makeup with matching and perfectly lined pink lipstick. Anouk looked down. "Why are you wearing heels?" "Oh, goodness gracious me," her mother ignored her question, covering her mouth in exaggerated shock. "What on earth has happened to your face?" Anouk touched the swollen cheek, the superintendent's gift from the previous night. "It's nothing," Anouk shrugged. "Well, young lady, it doesn't look like nothing to me." Her mother stepped forward and reached towards her. Anouk ducked and moved from her touch. "It's all right, mother. I'm fine." Anouk raised her hands. There was a moment of silence. You'd better at least clean up before you eat. Lips pursed, her mother pointed down the hallway. Anouk curved around her mother and entered the shower room. She was thankful that the door was slightly ajar, avoiding a swift getaway. She closed it behind her. Her mother's footsteps click-clacked as she entered the kitchen living room. Oh, and in answer to your question, a frying pan clanged in the sink. I'm wearing heels because that's what ladies do, my dear. From the emphasis she placed on do, my dear, she intended this as a lesson in etiquette. Anouk gazed in the mirror. Gross, she murmured. She could hardly recognize herself. Her hair, once enviable with waves, was an oily and untidy mass. The wolf-cut trim that she had once sported was unrecognizable. Her cheek was blue and raised, with split skin. It looked like a piece of exotic but overripe fruit. She gave it a gentle prod. She turned the hot water tap on and waited for the water to heat. It didn't. Growing impatient, she tentatively splashed her face and washed the larger patches of grimed whey with soap on her fingertips. The dried blood under her nose and on her chin dissolved in the water, dripped into the sink, and joined a clockwise whirlpool down the plug. That'll do, she said, turning her head from side to side in the mirror. Anouk opened the toilet lid by reaching down behind her. She unbuttoned and pushed her jeans and underwear down and sat with a sigh. She waited for the urine to flow. It stinks, she marveled. She reached for a hand towel and wiped her face dry. Dirty streaks stained its white surface. Blast, she murmured, stuffing it back in the ring on the wall. She wiped herself, rose, pulled her underwear and trousers up, and buttoned her jeans, omitting to flush the toilet containing a dark yellow pool. She turned the tap on, let the water spatter on her hands, and then turned it off. Anouk wiped and dried her t-shirt and rolled her shoulders to ease the discomfort of her bra digging under her breasts. Seriously, she readjusted them. What was the point of wearing those? It sure as hell wasn't for her benefit. She could smell the bacon. With a sigh, Anouk clanged the bathroom door open and padded in well-used socks towards the rich smell of cooking. The food scent grew stronger with every step. She said nothing, just pulling the chair and sitting down. She felt entitled to. It was her money that paid for the bacon, no matter how or where it came from. She pushed the thought from her mind. Anouk ate in silence. Her mother sat in a chair beside her at a small round table. She mulled Janice over as she shoveled scrambled eggs into her mouth from a mint green dinner plate from Wood and Sons. The older woman had positioned herself away from the table. She sat with one leg crossed neatly over the other. She held a burning cigarette at her side, kept her back straight, and rested one hand in her lap. The cigarette smoldered, unsmoked. Ash had built up, teetering, ready to fall. Her mother tried to make conversation. I've been watching the most charming rerun on the telly recently. Fawlty Towers. Do you remember it? She raised the cigarette, tapping it against the ashtray sitting on the neighboring kitchen counter, before drawing in a lungful of smoke. No, Anouk lied. They had watched it as a family when they were still all together. A column of smoke seeped from her mother's mouth as she tilted her head upward. It's been quite enjoyable, I must say, her mother continued. They just don't make them like they used to. They don't make them at all, unless you're a masochist and tune into state TV. Is that your thing, Mummy? Really, Anouk Scarlet Walker. She found additional length in her neck, straightening it further. She took a theatrical breath in and composed herself. It would just be nice to have you around a little more, that's all. Her self-pity was palpable. And there's nothing wrong with our TV. NABC is a little boring, perhaps, but very informative, very helpful. How else would we know of the dangers of degenerates? Anouk snorted. Weak coffee exited her nostrils and landed over stacked toast on the table. That's quite disgusting, young lady. Standing, Janice dabbed identifiable splodges of coffee off the table with a napkin. If only you could have been more like your sister. She recognized her mistake too late. Anouk's temper flared instantly. My sister, she said in a raised voice, accentuating the mine. My sister who left with my father because of you. She spat the last word, knocking food off her plate with a gesticulating hand. Now, dear. Her mother attempted to diffuse the situation. Your sister didn't leave me, she said. Your father kidnapped her, and you. If it weren't for those nice boys, red jackets, Anouk bit in. Yes, those nice young men from the bureau, her mother said. Well, you would be gone too, and where would that have got you? You're already a mess. Anouk fumed, her face flushed. If I'm a mess, it's because of you, she quivered with anger. Father left because he saw you for what you are, a fascist, a vile collaborator. All sweetness deserted her mother. Her scowling face was contorted and harsh. Your father was a criminal, a traitor, she brayed. They should have strung him from a lamppost when they had the chance. I should have reported him sooner. You reported him, Anouk repeated in shock. She leant back in her seat, reeling from the revelation. Of course I reported him. He was one of them, an agitator, mixing with terrorists. He was a degenerate, like you, and like that. Her mother snapped her fingers rapidly together, as if trying to remember. That friend of yours, James, she said triumphantly, producing a faux giggle. Her slitted eyes studied Anouk. Red eyes, lazy, sitting with your legs apart. You're a drugged slut, she finished, hurling the last insult. That's right, Janice, Anouk said more calmly with hurt. That's your oldest daughter, not your precious second. A drugged slut. I take a little shimmer to numb the pain, some cock to tell me my body's not already dead. She lingered, shaking her head almost imperceptibly. So go on, report me. Her mother collected herself. She regained her customary perpendicular pose. I have. The silence that followed was hollow but brief. She didn't know why her mother had reported her that day and not another. Perhaps it had been the final straw or random piquet. Either way, Anouk didn't plan to hang around to find out. The backpack was full as Anouk squeezed a pullover into it. God damn it, she grunted, putting a socked foot over the top and pressing down to zip it. Janice was in the kitchen living room, serenely tidying the half-eaten meal. She placed an old vinyl of Mr. Sandman on. It spun on her prized antique turntable, and she hummed. The record's crackling surface noise added a sense of urgency. Anouk unfurled her boots from beneath her jacket. She loosened the laces and slipped them on, and pushed her feet in. The laces remained untied. She grabbed her jacket and backpack, but stopped. She snatched the amber bottle of Shimmer from her bedside table and stuffed it into its original pocket. Her mother appeared at the kitchen living room door as Anouk came out from the bedroom. Are you leaving, dear? She asked in a saccharine voice. The needle had stuck on the turntable, and the chorus was playing in a loop, beckoning listeners to sleep. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast, she smiled, cocking her head to the side. Should I consider it my last meal, Janice? Anouk asked. Why, dear, whatever do you mean? Anouk took her confusion as ridicule. She opened her mouth to reply, as always. But then she caught herself. She understood. Her mother was not well. She lived in an imaginary world, one more simple and innocent. It was a world where truth was self-evident and naivety celebrated. Sleep, sleep, sleep. The stuck chorus repeated hypnotically in the background. For years, Anouk had hated her mother, but the woman before her was no monster. She was a broken cog caught in the state's apparatus. Anouk held no love for her, although she no longer hated her either. She was the object of intense pity and sadness. The meal was very thoughtful, thank you. Her mother swelled with delight. Oh, I am so pleased that you liked it, she purred. Will you be visiting again soon? Anouk searched for a response when a loud knock came from the front door that made them both jump. Hello, hello, Mrs. Walker, it's the bureau, a woman's voice said from outside. Anouk felt an urge to run, but where to? She knew the apartment offered no escape. Even if she could jump 2 stories to the ground, the windows had security bars. Her mother bustled past her to the door. I am coming, officers, she sang as she turned the Yale lock and swung the door open. 2 red jackets stood waiting. Good afternoon, ma'am, a woman said. She was in the front of the door. The other red jacket was behind her, to the side. We received a call? Her eyes darted towards Anouk. Oh, yes, her mother said, remembering. Do come in. Will you have some tea? I baked wonderful lemon drizzle cake earlier today. Perhaps a slice? Thank you, ma'am, but no. We need to head off. Just the girl, if you will, the red jacket said. Anouk, her mother corrected. A smile faded. Ah, yes, the girl Anouk, the red jacket said. She furrowed her brow. You did call? Anouk surprised herself. She stepped protectively forward before her mother could answer, forcing her back into the small corridor. She slung the backpack to her front and turned around with both hands behind her back to facilitate scanning of the microchip in her wrist and handcuffing. Anouk looked at her mother. Her face suggested she remembered requesting the Bureau's visit. It was riven. No need, the red jacket said, guiding Anouk. You're not going anywhere in a hurry. Well, we'll be off now, ma'am. She looked past Anouk to her mother. Thank you for your service. She nodded. Anouk moved to follow her. A small voice brought them to a halt. I'm sorry, her mother whispered. I had no choice. Anouk paused. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the amber bottle of Shimmer. She pasted it onto the shelf beside the door. We all have a choice, Mum. She then walked through the open front door with the red jackets.
Okay, this is a book I'm gonna have to read. Super cool. Thank you very much for
It's a
that reading.
pleasure. Thank you for letting me read.
What was your favorite part about writing this book? Is there a particular character, a particular scene, a particular message? What is your very favorite part about this?
I think it was the message. I mean, there were lots of parts, to be honest, Diana. And it was a learning curve, which was really enjoyable. But I think that the message to me is the most important, is that, it's a gritty, atmospheric, and dark novel, as you would expect from a dystopian literary slash thriller.
Sure.
Um, but at the same time, there's a glimmer of hope. And it reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope is still available to us all. And there are choices available to us all that can make a better world. And I think that message resonated with me. And I think it probably resonates with a lot of people at the moment in the world we're,
Oh,
we're,
yeah,
we're
absolutely.
living in.
That's definitely a message that we all want to hear more of,
Yeah.
right?
So I think although you feel the oppression in the book, and it surrounds you, at the same time you also find that people are pushing to find hope and the boundaries of where hope lies, and that was really nice to write. It sounds strange, but it really was,
Yeah,
because it reminded me of all the good things out there.
absolutely. So I asked this of all the authors I don't know. Are you a plotter or a pantser? How do you work your writing mechanism?
Well, in my case, as a debut author, I really didn't know how to start a novel.
Okay.
So I started with the first line, and I knew that how I wanted to end, and the rest I filled as I went along. And I actually think for me that was by far the best approach, because the story started to tell itself in an organic and natural way. Rather than me telling the story, it was saying, "Well, that's the obvious next thing," and that was also
So
really enjoyable.
you just let the muse carry you and let the muse direct you.
Yeah, I did, and I think if I had any advice to fellow debut indie authors, I'd say the important thing is pace.
Mm,
You have to keep
absolutely.
that pace going, and especially for
And that pace is different with every genre, right? So you have to be
exactly.
aware of what the expectation of your reader is.
It's within genres, it's different, but also within chapters. I mean, some chapters slow and some chapters pick up. But readers today, we live in a world where you predominantly watch movies, or you
Right.
engage with social media, and the pace is relentless. And people don't have the appetite, including me, for something that is, a Wuthering Heights, or as much
Sure.
as I love Charles Dickens, it's slow.
Yeah.
And people just don't have that kind of patience. So you do have to pace your novel, and you have to keep on pushing. And as much as it's in fun to play with language, you've also got to limit um, you can't indulge too much in long passages and prose. It gets boring.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it gets boring to write as well.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Well, certainly after you've written it and you read it again, you thought, what was I thinking? So yes, pace is
Right.
everything. Despite not
Absolutely.
knowing where you're going, I think the thing that drove me forward was the characters and their story, but also pace. If you keep the pace up, you will finish, and you will
I
finish
think
in a
that's excellent advice. That's
yeah.
really spot on. So this is your debut novel. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do we have coming next from you?
So it's actually part of a planned trilogy.
Okay.
So readers should expect that there's an ending, but it's left hanging. Um, uh, s- uh, so the second one I'm have started thinking about
Okay.
that beginning and the end, and I will start writing it in a couple of weeks, and it should be out in I think you guys call it fall in the States, autumn,
Yes. Autumn. Yep.
um, and yeah,
That's
so I mean,
exciting. So we'll have something new in the next year from you.
fingers crossed with all the I mean, you know what it's like. The job
No,
starts
yeah.
when you do all the editing and stuff like that.
Sure,
But yeah,
sure. And
that's the
that's my
idea.
favorite part. I'm a professional editor. That's my day job.
Oh,
So
really? Yeah.
for me, the fun part is, okay, now we take a story. How can we massage it, make it better?
Yeah,
And
it's like polishing a stone, isn't it? And
absolutely. Yeah.
and when it really starts to shine, you get excited.
Yeah. I have a lot more patience for the editing part than the creation part, I have to admit.
Oh, really? That's quite
Yeah.
interesting. I think that's quite unusual.
It is. It is. And it's just one of the many things that makes me a little unusual.
Fair enough.
I'm really looking forward to hearing more from you. I hope when the next book comes out, you will come back and read again for me.
Well, I hope you'll invite me. You might
Of course.
after reading the book, you might thought, oh, that was dreadful. I'm not inviting him back again.
It's really interesting. I haven't in all my years of doing this program, and now we're going into year five, but also I started in journalism in my early 20s and then moving forward to where I am now. Um, there are only a handful of books that I haven't been able to finish and wouldn't recommend. So it's pretty unusual for me to not want to have you back. So just consider it an open invitation.
Thank you. That's very kind.
I hope all goes well for you and that the publishing of your next book is fraught with fewer roadblocks along the way.
I'm sure it will be. Thank you so much for having me, Diana.
Thank you. Have an awesome day.
You too.